Today I'm going to be painting in the style of Cézanne. Hi everybody, Steve Elliott here again with another painting in the style of. This time it's Cézanne. I thought I would do a still life for a change. I don't do many still lifes, but Cézanne was well known for his still lifes. So I've chosen Cézanne's pictures, a bowl of fruit, which I'm taking the colours from here. And I want to say I used the colours as a basis from his painting, like a base palette. But because of the purple Buddha that you can see in my picture, I did have to introduce a lot more colours that weren't in his palette to get the painting I wanted. So something I don't normally do, I sort of mixing two palettes together really. But I did use his palette for the base colours and for the background and sort of not so much all the detail work. So Cézanne, he was born in 1839 and he died in 1906. In actual fact, he come from a wealthy family, and his father wanted him to be a lawyer, and he did train for a lawyer for a few years while he was still studying as an artist. But he didn't stick at it very long, because when he was only 22, he took himself off to Paris to become a professional painter and worked there really much to the dismay of his father. So good on him for that, for doing what he wanted to do. And I guess he was struggling for a while, but in the end his father did reconcile and he inherited 400,000 francs. I've got no idea how much that is, but it did mean he was financially secure and he didn't have to worry about cash, so he was able to paint. The picture I've got here, this is, although it's a still life, it's not a bowl of fruit. It is actually another, I'm going to say another scene. I haven't painted any scenes from the apiary, but it is, I've talked about the apiary quite a lot because I painted the large Pleasures of Sin picture for their bar, and I've done other work for them in the past, but this one was sat in their garden. They've got a garden that they call the Buddha garden, and as you can see from this painting how it's shaping up, very bright colours in there, and very typical of the people that own the place. It really is a cool place to sit. And if you not from the UK, you might not know that you can't smoke in any public places, not public places, enclosed places in the UK. So even though this is outside, it's got this sort of cover over it of sort of very fine fabrics and things which make you feel like you're almost in a tent. So there's still no smoking in there, which is great because I don't smoke, and so it's a really nice outdoor place to sit and enjoy a drink in the summer. So now you can see I've got my two reference images next to me on the screen. Previously I had to use the Procreate, I'm painting in Procreate again, the Procreate export feature, because for some reason I've been having trouble where I've been trying to record the screen and it's just not recorded. So I had to use some of the Procreate footage to get the beginning. Anyway, if you look at the Cézanne painting, he painted that, and apparently it's in his it was in his father's house, and the mural on the back wall is thought to be something that Cézanne painted or made. I think it's a painting made himself in his youth, so he's actually painted his own work there along with the fruit. So I thought that was interesting to mention that. So anyway, back to the painting. I used only one brush for the whole of this painting, and that was the turpentine brush. I found this painting a lot easier to do than the Van Gogh, or Van Gogh, depending on how you pronounce it. I really struggled with the Van Gogh one, and it was hard work, but this one came a lot more naturally to me. Looking at the brush strokes, I don't know, I may be totally wrong, but I think Cézanne was left-handed, looking at his brush strokes, because they all tend to go from top left to bottom right, which is, I'm left-handed, and I tend to do the same thing. If you look at my paintings, you can clearly see that I'm left-handed, and I'm suspecting that he might have been left-handed. And not only that, his brush strokes suit my style of painting, and he does tend to put outlines around shapes and things, which I I've never really done before, so that was something new for me to try out. And I really got into this one. I did it in one sitting. It took me 5.5 hours. I think I did have a break in the middle for a quick sandwich and a cup of tea, but that was it. I got straight back on it again and worked on it until it was finished, because I just totally into it and spent the whole day on it. Really enjoyed it. So Cézanne, he actually, like most artists, spent a lot of his years unknown. He was sort of part of the Impressionist movement, and he did exhibit with them a few times, but he was considered to be even more out there than the Impressionists. And he didn't get his first solo exhibition until 10 years before he died, when a Paris dealer put on the exhibition for him, and it did sort of launch him as a painter and made him famous, I guess, although he was sort of well known before that, but that made him. So he only had 10 years at the top, but he did make it in his lifetime, and he was criticised a lot by not painters but other art dealers and collectors. He did get ridiculed somewhat, but he persevered. He was influenced by Courbet and Manet, not Monet but Manet, and I checked out Manet's work, and I can definitely see there's resemblance between the two painters, so I can see why that is. And he's considered to be the bridge between the Impressionist movement and the 20th century movement, with painters like Picasso and Cubism. So I didn't know that, because as I'm doing each of these paintings, I'm researching about the artist as well, because I think it's quite nice to talk a little bit about them. So I'm finding out stuff all the time. So that was news to me and interesting to find out. So this painting, I painted it on 2 or 3 layers. I created the initial layer, and I put on sort of rough colours, as I always do, just to get the old canvas covered so I can judge tones better, and I sort of roughly laid out where I was going. But usually I create a new layer at that point and lock that layer, but this time I didn't. I wanted the paint to smudge and blend into the background colours that I used, so I only used that one layer. And then I noticed that he'd got these very subtle shadows going. At first you think he's just got these outlines going round the shapes, but then you see he's actually got a lot of shadows going off there. So I created a layer, and I set the blend mode to multiply to put the shadows in. You can see them on the plant pots particularly, and that little stack of white things. I think I don't know what they are, candles or something. See the shadows on that. And then I created another layer to put the outline around the shapes, so I could adjust them without affecting or messing up the colours that I'd put on underneath. The little Buddha, I think I sort of overworked that and struggled with it a little bit till I was getting into the type of brushwork. And this Buddha that I'm painting now, it came a lot easier and it was a lot looser, and I just found myself putting these brush strokes on much more loosely and I guess with feeling. And what another thing about Cézanne, he was considered to be, in his youth, he painted with a palette knife, and he put on really thick paint, and he told, I think it was Renoir, yes, it was Renoir. He told Renoir that for 20 years he didn't realise that painting wasn't sculpture, because he used to put that much paint on. But later on, he became much more subtle with his brushwork, and he used to use smaller strokes, and he would follow the contours of the shapes with colour, which is kind of pretty much what I like to do anyway. So I think that was another reason I found this one. Well, it was challenging, but it was a lot more. I felt a lot comfier and painting in a style that was much more similar to my own style and what I'm used to. So, and I love the colours. I love the fact that I've got all these purples and greens in there, and I've got a lot of colour all over the canvas, which usually I have large areas of quiet. What I mean quiet areas on the painting with not a lot happening, and maybe just sort of big broad brush strokes, like the mirror that I've got in the background there. Although I am sort of covering up a lot of those now with sort of leaves and things, so putting more detail into it. In fact, talking about the mirror, I did make the colours in the mirror, if you look, a lot greyer and lighter than the actual objects that it's reflecting, because I wanted it to be obvious that that was the mirror, and it felt that it framed the Buddha better to do that. I think if I'd have made them all the same as the actual objects, the reflections the same as the objects, it would have probably looked a bit too busy, and probably wouldn't have worked quite so well. I do think this has worked as a painting. I really like it. I'm not saying I've achieved anything like a Cézanne again. I want you to make up your mind about that. Personally, every time I do these paintings, I feel that they're nowhere near the style I'm painting in. But it is subjective, and everybody has their own ideas on that. And I'm very close to the painting. I've put every brush stroke on there, and I'm not the best. I don't consider me to be the best person to decide if I've actually achieved anything like the style, because A, I'm biased, and B, it's my interpretation of it. So in my head, I suppose it is, but then again, I look at them and I can't see it at all. So I don't know what I'm trying to say here. I guess it's a confidence thing, isn't it, really? And I'm not happy to say yes, I've achieved the style of this artist or not. So that's why I like to leave it up to you guys. I enjoyed painting that bit of decorative work on the front of the table. That was just done so quick with a few brush strokes. Really like that. Got the signature in now, so I guess it means I must be getting close to the end, but obviously not the end. I did go and make a cup of tea and then come back to it, and then you can see I'm sort of strengthening lines around bits of the painting. I felt it needed that. So these are sort of the finishing touches that I'm going in with now. Sort of just softening colours where I thought there was a little bit dark. But that is pretty much it. That is the end of the painting. So thank you everybody for staying with me till the end of this. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you think I have done a reasonable job of painting in the style of Cézanne. If you have, a big thumbs up would be appreciated as always. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, because I have lots more videos like this and I would love to be sharing them with you. So hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye.